hell's going on, man? Okay. Hey, Grauwelt fans. Today I wanted to kind of share some thoughts that I've been having recently. This is something I've thought about a lot throughout my entire life, and I find myself today thinking about this again. And that's kind of why fiction is important. As a writer myself, fiction is obviously very important in my life. It's what I do, and also what I consume a lot of. I spend a lot of my hours each and every day, creating and consuming and considering fiction. But before we get started, if you'll allow me a little bit of shameless self-promotion, I'd like to invite everyone over to the Grauwelt website at grauwelt.com/free. You can get a free ebook preview of this book right here. You'll get the first 2 chapters and also the prologue in an ebook. You can sign up there with your email address. Again, the URL is grauwelt.com/free. I'll put the URL in the video description and also in the video itself. So there are a lot of people that I've come across in life that either don't like to read, or if they do read, they stick to really dry subjects like nonfiction, and they don't really like to delve into fiction or fantasy or sci-fi or any of those sort of things. And I think that's truer as we get older. I definitely don't consume as much fiction, even though I write it more now. I don't consume as much of it as maybe when I was a kid or a teenager. And of course, naturally, our tastes are going to change as we get older. But I think a part of that, I don't know what it is about us as human beings, but we're really imaginative when we're young. And then as we get older, we kind of start to lose that imagination. It just kind of starts to wither away and disappear. And that's really sad, I think. It's tragic. And I know a lot of people will say, a lot of detractors will say, well, fantasy and sci-fi and fiction in general is all well and good, but I'm an adult now, I have practical considerations, I have a job, kids, house to take care of, bills to pay. And I would say to that there's certainly room for both, and in fact fiction should serve as a very important aspect to all of our lives. Folks that don't like to read fiction end up missing out on its emotive power. Fiction, unlike nonfiction, has the ability to put us in a set of circumstances, in a hypothetical set of circumstances that a lot of times can't happen or shouldn't happen. This is especially true in sci-fi and fantasy, which are my favorite kinds of fiction. And we get to explore, we the readers and certainly the writers get to explore another side of human experience that no one knows about. And that's what I love about fiction, is it's that speculative nature, that what if. You get to, insert yourself into a place that no one's ever been to before. Reading fiction is introspective. It allows us to see a side of our humanity, our shared humanity, and also individually, that we never would have been turned on to before. That's the great power of fiction. I mean, it can turn the way that people think almost like nothing else, really. There have been works of fiction that have changed entire generations in the way that they think. One example that I would say, it may not be popular with a lot of you guys, but it was definitely one of the bigger influences of fiction that I've ever read, is Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand, if you guys have ever seen or heard that. And while I've come to like it a bit less as I've gotten older, in my formative years, it was something that inspired me and generations before me, like my parents, into considering entirely new possibilities that we maybe never would have stumbled onto on our own. And nonfiction, as much as I love nonfiction, doesn't always cut it. It doesn't always give us that emotional draw. It doesn't, suck us into another time and another place. And it's so paradoxical that, you can read something about your own world, your own history, and that's certainly illuminating, but it's not quite the same as existing, for a time in a completely fantastical world. Nothing like, reading about a fantastical setting can make you understand reality quite the same way, if that makes any sense. I definitely like reading fiction more than I like watching it. Nothing takes the place of reading a piece of fiction because of that introspective quality. And also because when you see something on the screen, everyone gets the same image. Now, of course, everyone's going to interpret the images differently. We're going to have a different frame of reference to view those with. But when you read something, we can all read the same text, but the images and sounds and sensations that come to mind are all different. I mean, just think about that for a second. You know, an author writes a book, you know, let's say 100,000 people read it, and every single one of those readers' experiences is different, probably drastically different, in ways that, you know, we can't even fully compare, because I can't get inside your head and you can't get inside mine, and we can't see all the nuances that arise out of the words themselves. So just thinking about that is so fascinating to me to think about, and that's why reading fiction is so valuable to me and so much fun, especially when other people read the same things that you do, is that you can compare and contrast your visions and your speculations about the story and the backdrop. And I just, some of the greatest moments that I've ever shared with other human beings, my friends and family, have been talking about pieces of fiction and how we, you know, contrast our view of all of it. It's just, it's endless. It's so incredible to think that the human mind is so powerful, so imaginative. And for me, for someone to not use that imaginative power is kind of just turning your back on human potential. I know that sounds kind of harsh. I'm not criticizing people who don't read fiction as saying that they're somehow inferior. I would, however, you know, present this as saying that you should read fiction. There are worlds inside of your own mind laying dormant that these words can bring to life, essentially. And I think no matter what technological changes happen, we'll always have reading, we'll always have the written word. I mean, here we are today, I'm talking to you through the internet, you know, using all kinds of digital technology to record my images and voice and store them as tiny electrons in, you know, a server somewhere miles away, and then, you know, gets distributed across the world. As fantastic as that is, I don't think anything will supplant the basic technology of writing, which has been around for thousands and thousands of years now, and it will probably be with us forever. One of the things that distinguishes us human beings from other life that we know is the ability to abstract. And I don't think there's much else more abstract than looking at tiny scratch marks on a piece of paper or on a screen that then evoke all of these, you know, wonderful or terrifying images in my case. The kind of stuff I write is kind of terrifying. But, you know, just think about, you know, just little blips on a screen or those little scratch marks on a piece of paper can create entire worlds in someone's imagination. I think that's so magical, it's so poetic. No matter what happens to us technologically, I don't think we'll ever want to let go of that, thankfully. I think fiction is always going to exist in one form or another. Maybe one day it'll be holograms and simulations and things like that, but I think we'll always be drawn to fiction as the human species, because it, like I said, it is a way, a really incredible way, if not the best way, to kind of introspect and get a new understanding of how the human mind works, what the human condition is, you know, how we as people react to outlandish circumstances. And I think it's almost like a preparedness, like a training ground psychologically. You know, how do we react to these situations? You know, even if they're insane, like you get sometimes in sci-fi and fantasy, just unbelievable. How would human beings really act in this circumstance? And I don't think any other medium other than fiction, especially in the printed word, does that better. So I'll close this video by asking everyone to name a favorite piece of fiction. For me, I would have to say the Dune novels. The original series by Frank Herbert is probably my favorite fiction for a variety of reasons. It's very dark, it's very serious, it's very political, it's very well built, it's all about the world itself, and I'm really drawn to that kind of fiction, and it's actually shaped a lot of the way that I think about things now and the way that I write about things. And really, it's kind of unfair because I've read a lot of fiction, a lot of sci-fi, a lot of fantasy, some contemporary things, and I like a lot of it. So it's kind of unfair for me to say that Dune is my favorite, but that's just what I'm going to go with. And I'm not asking you guys to tell me exactly what's your absolute favorite, but just give me a favorite and see if we have any similarities. Head over to the Grauwelt website where you can get a free ebook preview of this book right here, The Sword and Its Servant. The URL is grauwelt.com/free. I'll put the URL in the video description and also in the video itself. Don't forget to rate and share this video if you liked it, and subscribe to the Grauwelt channel. I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye.